Earlier this week, when I came to learn that Bob Newhart had passed away, it had occurred to me naturally to offer some kind of tribute here. And as I reflected on this, I suppose I was somewhat overwhelmed by the poignancy of just how significant this individual is to me. After all, he is the one who inspired, in his magic and artistry, this book to be written. Without Bob Newhart, this wouldn't exist, you know. And so I became a little overwhelmed, as I say, and I decided perhaps we would leave the shout-outs and the tributes to others to offer. And then, amidst all that nostalgia, a recollection arose. And it was so special, so singular, that I realized it really does merit sharing. Even if I do a terrible job recounting it to you, the magic is so perfectly, beautifully encapsulated here that I just can't resist giving you the opportunity to make up your own minds for yourself. Those of you who know Bob Newhart, you probably would agree that his mannerisms, his demeanor as an individual, and that of his stage presence, the mild-mannered, buttoned-down mind, the laconic stammering and diffidence, there was quite a big crossover between the two. There was very little line of demarcation when it came to him as an individual and he as a stage presence. They really were almost interchangeably one and the same. It's a broad statement to make. I know it's an oversimplification. But if you allow for this, then you understand that when you have the stage presence persona of the last sane man on earth reacting to the insanity posed to him by all the crazy people of the world, you likewise know that sometimes it reversed itself. Whereas this sane, staid individual would make a rudimentarily simple remark and yet have everyone react as if what he said was so out of this world that he is the madman. He's the lunatic. He's someone from another planet. It was one way or the other. The bottom line being the same. I was changing through the stations on the television and I came across CNN, and there was a White House press corps luncheon wherein Bob Newhart was the guest of honor. They were honoring him with a tribute, and he was standing up at a podium. I presume he was thanking them for their recognition of his talents and his work. He was even wearing those stodgy, frumpy, plastic-framed reading glasses that you see him wear a lot of the time. He was wearing those at the moment, making his countenance just vintage, perfect Bob Newhart. And you could tell that this particular White House press corps, this whiter-than-white White House press corps, reveled in his humor. This was an especially, you want to talk about the button-down mind? Very conservative, white-bread, Reader's Digest White House press corps. And the highbrow, laconic, deadpan, dry humor which he offered, as I say, you could tell they were reveling in it. They just adored him. So much so that they realized that they had a unique opportunity and they didn't want to lose it. They wanted to take this opportunity for all that it was worth. And so what they had done is they created this little extemporaneous question and answer session for him following his remarks, in which they had written these pithy, witty, clever questions which they would present to him and allow him spontaneously to respond off the cuff, as it were, and sort of engage in this question and answer session in his own inimitable way. And You could tell that he was warming up to it, engaging in it. He got into the flow and the momentum of what it is they expected from him, and he was very much enjoying himself, and he was responding to their questions with his typical textbook approach. When it reached an interval, at which point one of them raised his hand and asked a very simple, very obvious question. Excuse me, Mr. Newhart. Yes. Inasmuch, sir, as you are a stand-up comic, you in turn must love stand-up comedy. Would you tell us, sir, who is your favorite stand-up comedian? That was the question. And as I say, taking everything in stride, getting into the momentum and having fun in the playful exchange with all of these members of this White House press corps, Bob Newhart stood up there and he heard the question and he answered it sincerely, straight to the point. What was that now? Who is my favorite stand-up comic? Oh, well, that's easy. I don't even have to think about that. My favorite stand-up comic is Richard Pryor. Now, half of that press corps didn't know who Richard Pryor was. The other half knew exactly who Richard Pryor was. Ergo, Richard Pryor is my favorite comedian because I just happen to find his humor to be, funny. The distended, awkward, shifting, shuffling discomfiture of that whiter than white White House press corps was a thing to behold. And Bob Newhart, shifting and shuffling, diffident up at that podium, reacting to their reaction, magic. Absolute magic. To see this complete derailment of life literally imitating art and art literally imitating life, you had to be there. Now eventually he got back on track and he went on to explain in all honesty just why Richard Pryor was and is his favorite stand-up comic. This was at a time when Richard Pryor was still living, although was beginning to decline. And he made note of this. He pointed out to them that, as some of you may know, some of you anyway, Richard isn't doing all that well right now, and we just want to send him our best regards and best wishes, and because, after all, this is a very noteworthy stand-up comedian, and again is my own personal favorite. And the momentum was picked up again, and there was a polite pitter-patter of applause, and they went back to their staid, pithy, clever questions, and went right back to the swing of things. But in that one moment, as I say, it's possible, it's even likely that my recollection is exaggerated, is embellished, that I'm misremembering it, bigger than it was. But even then, I tell you, that really was something to see. A moment within a moment within a moment, if that even makes sense. This is one of those anecdotes that either you get it or you don't. And I hope that you do, because if you do, and you love Bob Newhart, then you will have to concur. That's what it was all about, really, ultimately. Yeah. Godspeed, Bob Newhart. My heavens. Magical inspiration.